So, first of all, I want to apologize for speaking English. I've been in Turkey for 9 years. If you heard my Turkish, some of my colleagues are here, they know how bad it is. So, and we'd be here for a very long time. So, I apologize. Tek yabancı, söz veriyorum. So, my aim really just for the next 15 minutes or so is to give you some ideas in terms of what people are doing in and around analytics. Also maybe give some context to some terms that are used quite a lot. I truly mentioned some, and also where I see some of the opportunities. So just a couple of statistics. Everyone likes a good couple of statistics. So each day, on average, we play with our phones, a session on our phones, 76 times. And on top of that, there are 30 apps that we have on our smartphones these days, on average. So what? So let me give a little bit more information about myself. So as I say, I've been in Turkey for 9 years. One of the things I started to do when I came to Turkey was actually to ride a bike. This was a picture taken on a race from Istanbul to Bursa a couple of weeks ago. And why I mentioned, let's say, the number of apps is that mobile, as Tulin mentioned, has had a huge impact on our lives, and people always talk about Airbnb and Uber and all of these type of things, and I promise to shoot myself if I ever mention Airbnb on a slide. So if you look at different areas, they've all been massively affected, and this is one area. So on my phone I have 8 applications purely dedicated to what I do on my bike, from tracking the speed that I go, to looking at the weather in case I go out, to managing the different courses that I want to go. So from this point of view, analytics is a journey for any of us, whether it's in our corporate lives or even our personal lives or our interests. And again, we need to understand why analytics is interesting or important to us. And what it comes down to is that we're trying to make better decisions. And not only that, from a corporate perspective, to use a phrase from a colleague of mine, we need to be making decisions, the better decisions, where they have value. So where the money falls out. So it's okay, better understanding something that's neat or cool, but it has no long-term value. We need to be making better decisions in the areas of value. So, cloud. I'm an IT guy, so we always talk about cloud. Actually, not yet. So first of all, Tuli mentioned weather. And let me expand that out to one step further. External data. So analytics, up until, let's say, this point, has been focused upon the data that we have inside our company, the data that we generated. And this obviously has massive value, massive potential. And we'll talk about even the different types of data that we're trying to unlock these days. But in addition to that now, we have the ability to start to integrate other types of data from third parties that can bring new context, new views into how we see our models and our business. So there are some, let's say, commonly quoted statistics that there is a certain temperature, and it fluctuates by country, in which the weather outside then dictates whether, if you go into a Starbucks or a Gloria Jeans, whether you will order a hot drink or a cold drink. Being from the UK, everything we do is affected by weather. So am I going to go to a shopping mall? Am I going to go to Bardar Street? So lots of these things can have an impact on us. I mean, one of the interesting case studies, things that we're working on with a company here in Turkey, is in and around utilities. They're looking at the data that they have on their infrastructure, their maintenance records, and they're matching that with weather forecasts to try to predict when they may be at risk of having a power outage. So rather than waiting for the outage to happen, go out and repair it, trying to get out in front of that, look at the different factors that are there, and go and take preventative action. It's more than just weather. I mean, we have market research companies. You've got companies like Nielsen that provide, let's say, market data that you can then bring in to add value to what you see on social media, along with the customer surveys that you've got. All of these start to add context and additional insights into how you deal with your customers, your employees, your assets, your equipment, your machinery. So that's the first thing I want you to, let's say, maybe take away from my speech, is the potential of third-party and external data. Now, cloud. So, IT companies, again, if you really, so if you go and do a Google search and you search on cloud, you see all the IT companies saying why cloud is important. And there are, let's say, a number of very good reasons. I'll leave the finance side of it, the economical benefits to one side. Certainly there are, without doubt, there are benefits in terms of flexibility and time to deployment, because these companies are maintaining the environment for you. And I understand that there are those of you in the room that are from regulated markets that have restrictions, such as banking, government, telco. But still, these things are worth thinking about. And I want to expand on the point that Tulin mentioned, is that a lot of the things within analytics, in terms of the algorithms and the way that we approach them, they haven't really changed that much in the last 20 or 30 years. For me, one of the big, let's say, differences is the processing power that's now available in order for us to get the results in a timely manner. It may have been possible 20 years ago to do some of these calculations. It's just that we may have got the answer 10 days too late. So irrelevant. They said that it took something like 10 years to sequence human DNA originally. Now it can be done in a couple of hours. So it's that factor of, let's say, performance increase that makes the potential for analytics that much greater. And the next step will come within quantum computing. So I'm not a details guy, but what we're effectively talking about is, again, a massive factor increase in terms of the, let's say, processing power that will be available to, let's say, any organization. Now, the problem with quantum computing is that in order to, let's say, run this system, you need to keep the data center at absolute zero, minus 150 degrees. So, I'm not sure that there's anyone, let's say, any company in this room that has the capability to currently do that. So the way, if you want to make use of that processing power, let's say initially, it's going to be through the cloud. And then that starts to open up how you can work with these more complex algorithms, how you can work with the massive data that's out there. This, for me, is the undeniable benefit of cloud. So, AI. AI is a very interesting topic for me. Prior to the role that I was doing, I was responsible for this topic within IBM for a while. And depending upon who you hear from, it's either going to save the world or end the world. Actually, it's somewhere in the middle, or neither of both. But the point here is that the first thing about AI is here to basically help make sense of the masses and masses of data that we have. So we spoke about external data. Now if we look at internal data, and we talk about structured and unstructured. So structured, this is the information sitting in our database. If we come to the unstructured, this is voice recordings from the voice transcripts from the call center. These are any images, videos, emails, contracts, masses and masses of data that we currently don't touch in terms of trying to assist our decision making. AI is a set of tools where you can structure the unstructured, so you can make decisions upon it. And again, this is where also predictive analytics continues to play a very important part, because AI purely is more about the applying order to the disordered. But you still need to be able to make a decision on it, and that's where predictive analytics is there to help. Another way to explain AI, I'm not sure if you remember this guy. He was the crazy American guy that used to hang around with George Bush. And in one news conference, he was not sounding so clever, and he came out with this phrase, that there are known knowns, these are the things that we know. And for me, this is the first part of analytics. These are the things that we're analysing now. We know what we know. Okay? Then there are known unknowns. So that is to say, these are the things that we know that we don't know. Now, this may be where you take something like machine learning. This is where it can start to add value. You can teach it the rules, you can teach it a model, and then you can have it help you start to understand certain things. And then finally, there are the unknown unknowns. And these are the things that we don't know, we don't know. And again, this for me, and Tuli mentioned deep learning earlier, this is where something like deep learning has an impact, where you can say, here's my data, or here's a data set, analyze it, tell me something I don't know. And that's what deep learning is about. So, he's a terrible role model to give for a quote, but for me it's a good way to explain AI and analytics. And also there's a part of AI which is also about experience. So for me, we hear about chatbots a lot, and there is also, let's say, an argument about whether a chatbot is really AI or not, but still, what we can use AI for is improving that experience, and we can do it at a couple of levels. The first one, if we talk about those transcripts, if you have a call center and you have those transcripts, you can then convert from speech into text and then mine that text with a tool like SPSS and start to understand the intents and the reasons why people call into the call center. Now, with that information, there are two things that you could do. You could, let's say, use that information you gathered to, let's say, improve your IVR setup. So, what are the questions that are coming in? Is it about a particular product? And you can move, let's say, you can readjust the decision tree within IVR to catch more of those, so we don't use so many agents. The other area could be is that you could use, let's say, chatbots, virtual agents, to catch some of the questions before they come in. So you can basically have a chatbot that would deal with FAQs around changing PINs, passwords, change of address, these type of things. And there are customers now that, again, take it further, especially in retail. We see that there are lots of people innovating. There's a company called North Face, where rather than having you click through a tree to go and select the jacket that you want, it says, where are you going? What are you going to do when you go there? What are your preferences in terms of length? And then it will then come back and give you a list of suggested products. So you have a more, I don't want to say, you have a different type of interaction that may appeal to the demographic that you're dealing with. And I'm sure that, again, especially in retail, again, as virtual reality becomes more an option, we'll get into how you can have a virtual self that you can then effectively look at in terms of trying clothes on. These are the things that, let's say, that can be done. On to, let's say, another topic, IoT, Internet of Things. So now what you're thinking is, rhinoceros are very strange things to have for IoT. And it's not that IBM is creating a robot army of rhinoceros. So the reason I'm showing rhinoceros here is that in Africa, people kill rhinoceros for their horn, for ivory. Sell it to China, people pay a fortune for it. And it's a problem that they've been trying to manage for a long time, and recently also tried to manage with lots of technology. They've tried flying drones over these vast areas to keep an eye on the rhinoceros and see if people are coming. But it's such a vast area, you can't have that many drones up in the air. They tried tagging the rhinoceros themselves to see how they react, so that they might be able to predict if they move a certain way, that this may mean that there's a poacher coming. The problem is that rhinoceros are not, let's say, are very rarely much of a reactive animal. So, again, this is the type of story I like. So there was a university in the Netherlands that did some research. And what they found is that the best predictor for understanding when there is a human threat to rhinoceros is actually not to track the rhinoceros, but to track other predatory animals, zebra, deer, these type of things, because they spook, they get scared very easily. And what they're doing at the moment is that they're now tracking these animals because they react very differently if a man with a gun turns up as opposed to a lion. So again, so from that, they're now able to monitor this much more effectively. So for me, this is a real, let's say, valuable use case in terms of what the potential of IoT can be. Another one is, let's say, is the airline industry. From an aviation point of view, an engine failing while you're in the air, not a good thing. Really, really not a good thing. So, and if you, I looked this up a few days ago. The average engine on a 10-hour flight generates something like 10 or 20 terabytes. A massive amount of data. So, what is there that we can do with that data? Or is it just a cost that we store? Well, what engine companies are now doing, Pratt & Whitney is one of those. They have 4,000 commercial engines on, let's say, huge planes like this or smaller ones, and they're analyzing, let's say, this data, and they're looking at vibration, heat, revolutions, these type of things, and they're now starting to model when there may be particular faults within these engines. And they believe that they can predict up to 6 weeks out to a 90-95% certainty when there is likely to be a problem on an engine. So from that point of view, they can now go out, as we talked with the weather example earlier, and take preventative action. Another company that's interesting that I just wanted to mention before I move on is Honda. So Honda also, again, they're collecting information from the sensors on the cars, but they're also combining that with the external data that we talked about earlier. So there are forums where people talk about their experience of driving the cars. There is the equivalent of TÜV in the US that also writes their findings on cars when they go through tests. And basically they've taken this data, made it available to 100 engineers, and allowed them to basically query that data so that when they're looking at, let's say, enhancements in terms of, I think the one example that I heard was they wanted to have a start button on the car. Rather than an ignition that you turn, they wanted to have a start button. But they found that a certain let's say, age demographic of people were getting confused with the buttons and were trying to turn the button off while they were driving. They thought it was a button for something else. So by being able to, let's say, take this let's say this data, combine it with the driving behaviours of different people, they're able to target different cars to different markets and different demographics. So we talked about, I've mentioned a few areas in terms of technology. There are some other factors that I think are equally important, if not more important. One of them is organisation and culture in terms of how you use it. So one of the things that we did in IBM that I thought was very good was we had a technology for AI, Watson, and we have product management teams, developers that they have ideas and they usually drive where the product goes. But there was an initiative that we call cognitive build, where it was asked that teams from anywhere in IBM come together and come up with ideas about what we could do with this technology. So there are around 400,000 people in IBM, around 200,000 people took part in this. And then in each country, an idea was selected in each region, and then the top 15 groups went to the US and presented these ideas to the CEO. Of those, five of those ideas now are currently in development in terms of becoming a product. So that culture in terms of promoting people to contribute ideas outside of the standard process is just as important, because there are people that are going to have a different view on that data, a different insight that can add value. So we shouldn't get stuck in, we have for each department a business analyst, and then we do the analysis through that person. Again, the analytics should be made available to as many people as possible so that they can apply their way of thinking to that data, so that we can continue to get new ideas and new insights. The other very, very important thing is skills. Again, we have a watchmaker here, and we go back 150 years. I mean, this guy was the pinnacle of technology. It's still a massively skilled job. But again, things change so fast. And in terms of skills, there is a massive shortage worldwide. I don't have, let's say, figures on, for Turkey, but for the UK, they say it costs the UK economy £2 billion a year in terms of the lack of skills that companies have around analytics. In the US, they say over the next, let's say up until 2025, there will be 200,000 unfilled analytics jobs in the US, having a massive, massive effect on companies' ability to operate. So, again, the message I want to give here is that, first of all, this is an opportunity for Turkey. As a wider, let's say, countrywide thing. If anyone's thinking, someone asked me, I think last month, in terms of where would I suggest that their child sort of get into after leaving university. Analytics, data science, we're never going to be without a job. And again, you need to foster, you need to grow and build out skills within your organisation to be able to deal with this. And obviously make use of let's say, experienced companies like AIMS to supplement those skills. Just a fact, so another statistic. So this is the real reason to work in analytics. They pay you more. And in fact, actually data scientists, the number is even significantly higher than this. So this is an area that will continue to need investment. And we will continue to, let's say, we'll move away, not move away, we will continue to expand the areas that analytics can be used in. And before we used analytics, again, my first areas, we were using analytics against finance for our budgets and our plans and our forecast. Then we do it with CRM, we do it with HR. But one of the big areas that's been mentioned, Julie mentioned it earlier, is cybersecurity. Everyone's under attack. Everyone will continue to be under attack. The problem with this area is that there is always someone trying to get in and exploit it. So from this point of view, there will be new opportunities. Don't limit your thinking in terms of where you can get value from your data just to the areas that you currently work. Look at all aspects of your business to see where you might be able to make, let's say, improvements, benefits to the corporation. As Julia mentioned, we're doing things around healthcare. We're doing things from an IBM point of view. Also, to tie in content again, we bought a company called Truven around 2 years ago. Truven let's say, it's titled the Healthcare Analytics Company. But what was very interesting about Truven is that as part of those analytics, we had around 3 million patient data records from the US of people that took part in some of these studies. We use that data to then build out some of our Watson Health offerings. So another example in terms of where that third-party data can help innovate and help you build new products. So let me finish up. By the way, this is not me going faster. I was back there somewhere. Analytics is not easy, but there are massive benefits out there. And again, with the right approach, with the right tools, the right help, then we'll be able to go faster. So with that, thank you very much.